glad you are still with us. For those that are just coming on board, welcome. This is Morning at NTV, and I'm Chris Higenyi. Let's now delve into our Kickstart discussion, repatriation of Ugandans in the UAE, that is the United Arab Emirates. It's a story that is developing and one that has been with us for the last 15 years. Thousands of youth have headed to the Middle East, including the UAE, to seek greener pastures on jobs, including domestic work. Some are recruited on totally different terms, and it's reported that when they arrive in the UAE or any other of the countries in the Middle East, their documents, including passports, are taken away, and what happens after that is a story of harrowing tales of suffering and mental distress. There's been efforts by many stakeholders to have some of those that are stranded or distressed repatriated back to Uganda, but many times it has not been forthcoming. We have had reports of Ugandans who return, some of them citing cases of missing body organs, others return very sick, and well, what happens thereafter is a debate that we shall be able to delve into. Of recent, there have been repatriations conducted by the National Unity Platform, and at least 42 have returned. However, in the conduct of that exercise, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development also came up under the aegis of government and repatriated 1,000. It is said by some commentators that this action was prompted by what the National Unity Platform did. The question is, should government act because an opposition party has acted? So mustn't this be a deliberate effort to ensure that Ugandans who may be suffering anywhere in the world are repatriated or attended to as would, well, an American when American interests are concerned? Many of you have had stories where just one American citizen can cause a lot of a diplomatic furor. Why is it that 1,000 Ugandans can be in distress and the nation moves on as though nothing is happening? I'm joined by the Communications Officer at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Frank Mugabi, as well as the Deputy Spokesperson for the National Unity Platform, Alex Waiswa Mofumbiro, for this discussion. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
I'm humbled to be here.
We come on the backdrop of a grim picture of Ugandans who are returning from stints of work in the Middle East and UAE to be in particular. It is not one to write home about. They return distressed, registering cases of mental illness, and some psychologists and psychiatrists have talked about it and said it is simply the tip of an iceberg. First and foremost, we have an official from government, the Communications Officer from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. There have been questions about companies that take Ugandans to the Middle East for labour, that is labour exportation. Some of them are fully registered, no doubt about that, but the conduct of the trade itself is questionable. Before we go into the nitty-gritty of who has been repatriated or whether they've been repatriated in time, first take us through the registration and verification mechanisms that you employ to ensure that companies do the right thing.
Yes, thank you so much, and good morning, Uganda. As the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, we have the mandate to oversee companies that externalize labour. That is any Ugandan that wants to work outside the country. We have a mechanism, a mandate that was given to us officially in 2005 through a regulation on externalization of labor to ensure that we streamline this sector. Why did it come about? Labor is a mobile factor of production. I've left Nalia to come to town to work. Somebody has left in the neighborhood here to go to Nalia to work there.
That's right.
The same happens for labor across borders. So in 2005, there was an incidence, a growing incidence of many Ugandans being trafficked out of Uganda to go and find, by then, the industry, the economy in the Middle East was booming. So they needed more workers. So trafficking boomed. not just in Uganda, but in neighboring countries like Kenya and all the other countries across the globe. You'll find multiple nationals in the Middle East. So our government, in its wisdom, said we need to have a grip on this situation. Let us institute a formal process through which a Ugandan can go through and find a job, work while they are protected, and return after they have made all the money they want to make and have a good life back home. So that's how this whole labor externalization and Ministry of Gender being a regulator came into force.
That's right.
Since then, we have been doing this through registering companies, monitoring their activities, and ensuring that whoever wants to go out officially goes through registered companies. But the same regulation also has a provision for individuals whose jobs can be verified. We used to see many of them going to work with US contracted firms in Afghanistan
and
Iraq. Those would get secure jobs, and then the job had to be verified by the Ministry of Gender through our international correspondence protocols. And once it was given, the person would be let to go and work. However, we have seen an incidence of traffickers who want to take advantage of this booming sector. That they go on and dupe many Ugandans, promising them jobs that are not there. And how do they do it? If you're leaving the country, you need to have a travel document. And if you're going to the Middle East, any other country, you need to have a visa. In the United Arab Emirates, for example, the tourist visa is the easiest to get, because for them, it's one sector they are promoting as an economy, and it's working for them. So it would take you probably a day or two to get a tourist visa to Dubai. Now, the traffickers, a tourist visa is 3 months, okay? So the traffickers will tell you, I'll get you a visa. This unsuspecting Ugandan will be excited about it. After all, the visa is stamped in, but it's only 3 months. That's the catch.
Yeah.
So the trafficker thinks he will take you there, and in 3 months you will find a job. Now, when you get there, they will hold on to your passport and say, you know what, I'm holding this travel document. You get the job, start making money, pay me in bits what I have input or what we have agreed. Once you complete my pay, I'll give you back your travel document. Many times, the reality is different. The jobs are not there. So you find somebody is stuck on the streets of UAE. They don't have a home, they don't have a shelter, and they're in that situation. On the other side, we have people going through the registered companies. Once, according to the regulations we have, any company, Ugandan company, is supposed to declare any jobs that they get in the Middle East or abroad to the ministry. And the ministry, through its mechanisms, verifies the availability of those jobs. The next stage is for the company to advertise those jobs.
Okay.
Once you have advertised the jobs, you do the recruitment. Once you have done the recruitment, we have what we call the mandatory pre-departure training. Remember, these are Ugandans, many of them coming from very humble backgrounds, and they are going into an economy that is advanced, more so. So you're coming from a village in my neighborhood of Buenge,
all right,
and you're going to Dubai, and the person you're going to work for has a washing machine, has a dishwasher, is probably the entrance to the home is managed through some electronic system. It's going to be a shock to you. Even in Uganda here, how many people can manage to run a washing machine?
All right, no doubt about
these
that.
Challenges, for us, we anticipated them through all these years. That's why we say there is a pre-mandatory departure training. And all those who go through licensed companies have opportunity to have and interact with these scenarios before they leave the country to go abroad.
Thank you for that overview. We needed to understand exactly how this happens and where they go, so that later we can conduct what I consider to be an examination of how government reacts to what happens to Ugandans who go there. But from the perspective of the National Unity Platform, you've heard of the registration. Before we come to the acts of repatriating the 42 and all effort to repatriate the others. What do you see the process of verification, registration of the companies themselves, or even their conduct, as streamlined and transparent?
I surely understand the Ministry of Gender and the personnel at that particular job, the challenges that they face. It may not be said here by those in government, but part of the biggest disease that has eaten our country is corruption. And this corruption is not about money exchange, it's about implementation of policy, verification of processes. And I can tell you without haste that it cannot be true that whatever they are doing is 100% perfect. It's not what we are requesting for, but the results that we get. Let me tell you, every day we have about 2 dead bodies from the UAE. Every day. Every day. Let's forget about these who are now being repatriated, but these that have been taken in the name of companies and they have been mishandled. Now, this is something that speaks core to policy, because where do you stop a disease from inception? Once you get the diagnosis, then you can fight it.
Are you suggesting that the 2 registered deaths per day, as you allude to, as a result of government policy, or these are natural deaths?
You see, government has the duty to keep life. And the way you fight malaria is the way you should fight all other diseases or all other scenarios that cost life. And that is how big we should address this. If you have your citizenry going to a particular country and they're being returned in body bags as if they have gone for war, I can tell you, in Congo, you've not been having 2 bodies every day. Now, if you're having 2 bodies coming from the UAE every day, then you must sit down and reevaluate your system. The issues of export labor were effervescent from the time of the attack of America of Iraq on Iraq. And Africans started to get that opportunity around 2002. Many of our colleagues came out of school and went for that greener pasture. It was a robbery, it was a scam. If you've read the case of Nyombi in America about that particular whole scam, then you will understand where we're coming from. The agony at the ministry is that the owners of these companies are extremely powerful and influential, that they cannot follow the stipulated regulations in this business. Because as you realize, this is a lot of money we are talking about, both for the companies and for government as income. Now, the influence of that financial power has led to where we are today. Exposure of our children also. If you have a correct policy, why would you accept a vehicle to market a business of that magnitude deep down in villages where people have not been exposed to exactly what they're going for? Some of these young people have been duped even money that would have been used for them to start up a livelihood in Uganda in the name of being taken for greener pastures. And this is where policy must be efficient.
Allow me ask you to ask
and maybe
the gentleman.
I wanted to interject.
You will interject as you answer the questions. I want you to ask 2 questions to the gentleman from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development that must address your concerns directly.
You want me to ask him 2 questions?
Yeah.
How many companies have you deregistered from this scam?
Second
question.
The second question, what is your long-term approach because the Ministry of Labour looks at the young people.
Yes.
What is your long-term approach to solving the challenges of the young people, of employment of the young people? Because we pose over 80%. Until this is solved, you'll still have these challenges of young people looking for jobs everywhere.
Great. Take it on.
Let me start there. He says if we solve the challenge of young people jobs here, the challenge will be solved. That's not true. Because, like I started in my discussion, labor is a mobile factor of production. You can't put a boundary on labor. That is why you have Americans working in Uganda. Even in private companies, they leave America and come to Uganda and start up a company here. You have the British, many of them are here. Otherwise, why would they leave their home with the impressive employment figures? Why would they come to Uganda that we say is very bad? So it's not about that angle. It's about regulation. And I want us to concentrate our efforts there. That what are we doing about regulating? He says, how many companies have we deregistered? You know, we forget so fast as Ugandans. And they say, just last year and the other year, the previous 2 years, we were busy deregistering companies. Many of them, they were very powerful, pronounced. And when we deregistered them, there was a lot of noise. How do you deregister this company? How are you even going to manage? We said no. They have gone against the regulations. They are not fit to be in business. Many of them are not in business now. Can you tell me where is Middle East now in business? But besides what you put in quotes that they are powerful, where are they?
The ability of some of those companies to morph into others.
No, it doesn't happen because you see, I want you to provide evidence that the directors of that company are now in another company because the directors are advertised in the newspaper as a requirement. Be who or who, if you're going to start a recruitment company, you have to advertise your directors in the newspaper. And if we receive no petition after a certain period of time, that's when you're given a license. So the issue of who are the directors of these companies is public information. You can't say they are powerful in quotes without saying so-and-so is owning this, this company or their company did this wrong the other day, you didn't register them. That's the kind of facts I would like in such a discussion. Secondly, he says how many companies do we have that are running? We have been registering companies over the period of time, and by this morning, we have about 340 companies registered.
340.
And for us, we think it's very important. By the way, labor externalization is a great opportunity. Besides the challenges that face it, like any other industry.
Yeah, but our focus
labor
should be on the
externalization
challenges.
yes,
Yeah, this morning.
is good.
Manual
Because if you look at many of these people who are going out to do domestic work, these are people probably who did not have opportunity to go through school very well.
So they can't really apply for the formal jobs.
It's difficult for them. And here is a chance. If you tell them to be domestic workers in Uganda, they're going to be earning 100,000 shillings per month at maximum. Me, you, and him never pay our domestic workers even beyond 300,000. Actually, if somebody gave you 300,000 in Uganda, it's a miracle. Here they are going and they are getting an average of 1 million shillings as a domestic worker, averagely. That's good money. Many of them have gone, done their jobs over the period of time because our employment visas that take them out, remember I talked about a tourist visa that is 3 months. Officially, if you're going to go and work there, you get an employment visa, which is 2 years. So in the 2 years, you're able to do your work and come back and do an investment that you would like. Others have, paid fees for their children. The remittances that we are getting from Middle East alone now is worth 900 million USD. And these are World Bank figures, by the way, not Ministry of Gender. World Bank.
Are you suggesting figures from the Ministry of Gender or government?
No, if I said Ministry of Gender, you and probably my colleague here would think we sat down in our office and came up with those figures.
Usually
but these are international figures, verifiable. That translates, by the way, to 3.4 trillion Uganda shillings.
Now, allow me ask this question. Yes. Why would an industry that brings in such an enormous figure of foreign exchange be left to the whim of the mafia to the extent that those that require to be brought back in case of distress or ill health is not given the kind of attention that they ought to be given?
I want to correct that impression, that those who are in distress are not given the attention they need. We are doing a repatriation right now. which my brother here and his colleagues have jumped on and taken political capital out of. But I want to assure you, this is a purely technical process. Purely technical process. How did it start? Many African countries in the UAE, when they saw that there are many Africans who have been duped by agents, not the official way, by the way, by agents in the tourist visa, and they are ending up on the street, the ambassadors that represent us sat down as a team and said, what do we do? Let's talk to the UAE government to give us a leeway, which they are calling amnesty, to have these people taken back home. Because, let me tell you, entering a foreign country, be it Uganda, is very easy through the wrong ways. But getting out is very difficult if you don't have the proper documentation. God forbid, even my brother here, he's a lawyer. But if he ever got himself in Dubai and his visa overstayed, then the law sets in. He would be required to pay 300,000 the day after his visa expires. Then each day after that, he would be required to pay an extra 100,000 shillings. That is a total of 3.3 million shillings per month. Now, this is a stranded person on the street, and you're telling them to pay 3.3 million per month that they have been there. Some of them have been there up to 4 months.
It's a difficult
That's a lot of money. So these ambassadors, in their wisdom, said, let's engage the UAE government. And the UAE government was very receptive about the idea. Said, yes, we are giving you amnesty, and it's 3 months, starting August and ending end of this month, 30th October. So, while my brother here and his team started talking about this arrangement just the other day, we have been working.
Which day? I want to be sure.
We have been working since August
Okay.
in this arrangement. And by the way,
Very quickly,
the UAE government did stop at saying that we are giving you an amnesty. They went extra and said, we are giving you air tickets for those people.
Allow us hear from the National Unity Platform on how the process of being able to repatriate 42 Ugandans started, and what modalities did you go through, especially documentation and the running of the procedures that are required by the immigration, both in Uganda and the UAE.
First of all, it is foolhardy that where Ugandans have been watching clearingly, the ministry and government have now thought it wise to blackmail us with their ugly propaganda that we are jumping onto ship for political popularity.
Can you stay away from propaganda and speak about the facts of the modalities of the execution of that plan?
It is important to deface lies whenever you meet them. Very important. In August this year, the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Mwadanku Nyingi, left for international duty. And amongst, above all, was to go to the UAE. In the UAE, he showed on camera the plight of our people there. We know the facts of how they get there. And when we talk about labor, when we talk about Americans coming here, they are coming here as expatriates. They're not coming here as manual laborers. They are here as expatriates. And East or West home is the best. Whether you're going to work where or where, home should be made better such that you do not go for expatriate work. Where you're going for expatriate work, here you must be chosen. You must be head-hunted. That is when you live in conformity of the whims of that particular country. I want to tell you that exposure is very important. You cannot say that, as he has said, that an industry that brings in over 900 million US dollars is at the mercy of other people, not the mercy of government. That is the #1 benefactor in terms of this person's human resource that has been exported. First of all, our country has been cheated, because that particular human resource of young, energetic people that would be turning around this country has been taken to the UAE. However, it's not followed up. And that's the biggest challenge that they must have. In this process after Muada showed the whole world that these kids were suffering, we took time on how to go about it. We first of all took it upon ourselves to enlighten the whole world that there were people who were suffering. On this very channel, I think it was on the 6th of October, Henry Maiga, an ambassador to the UAE, came here and asserted overwhelmingly that there was nobody to repatriate. Okay? I saw my friend Zaketi Bedi, we come from the same district. I saw him also attest to the same. Just the other day, that is when we saw Ambassador Tibedi being chased from the detention center because for a long time they have only been picking pictures from these people. And these are not our words. These, okay. I wish you give me some time.
Please do very quickly.
These are words of the suffering people in Dubai. So we started a process because you need money to bring back these kids. True. The UAE government, after finding this as an anomaly and a challenge, passed a resolution, not by their invitation, passed a resolution to put amnesty for those kids to come back. It is 3-month amnesty since August, as is saying. Okay? They have not returned a single person. Because even to his own attestation, the persons who have returned on Fly Dubai and Arabic Air, because these tickets were bought by the UAE. Okay? They haven't.
Tell us.
Let me take my time.
There is something very critical.
Yes.
Excuse me. I am the moderator of the show, and you will have the opportunity to talk.
I intend your fair in time allocation.
Absolutely. I know exactly what I'm doing right now. Let me just bring it to you.
Yes.
What were the terms of the repatriation of the 1,000 Ugandans? Be very exact.
Explicit, by the way.
Yeah.
The UAE government, after having a negotiation with our ambassadors of African countries there, said the amnesty will be over 3 months, which he accepts. And that started in August. He says Honorable Mwada went there...
in August?
Which date?
Unfortunately, just
around
like, can't tell me the date, but
he was well received.
He was there
in mid-August. He was well received by our embassy. And he was facilitated to go to the center where all these people had been encouraged to report to. When the amnesty was declared, the UAE government passed an announcement and said, whoever has overstayed their visa, report to Al-Will Deportation Center. Voluntarily. You'll be assured of a meal, 3 meals a day. You'll be assured of shelter. You'll be assured of an air ticket. What did we see? 1,500 Ugandans
showed up
there. And it's because they were promised these amenities. A free ticket, a waiver of the fees that they were supposed to be paying in overstayed visas. But also, the UAE government said, we will not have a ban on you for re-entry into the UAE. That's very important.
Yeah.
Because
it's interesting here.
Because look, the moment you are deported,
Mr. Frank
internationally, the moment you're deported, there is a ban on you.
Okay.
It's very hard to go back to that country. But the UAE government said, because this is our arrangement,
just hold on.
we are allowing you go back home, and you will not have a ban on you.
One thing now, just a moment.
And that's why you have the 1,500
Excuse me, Mr. Mugabe.
back home.
One thing I am picking from both your submissions is that the National Unity Platform and government are taking advantage of an amnesty that was declared by the UAE and playing within that window of opportunity. Now,
you can't say
anyone can play.
Excuse me.
Anyone can play within a window of opportunity, and of course, we cannot discount the National Unity Platform for taking advantage of that. Why is it that a government that has a policy in place waits for amnesty granted as a result of pressure from stakeholders that are outside of this mandate to be able to do something about it? Very quickly before we go to
I told you, this was an initiation of our ambassadors based in the UAE. They are the ones who started the negotiations with the UAE government. It wasn't the other way around. No. It was our ambassadors who initiated these discussions. And by the way, this is a purely technical process. You see,
a technical process that
no.
Other people were able to do within a very short time.
In interstate relations, if somebody has overstayed their visa somewhere, no individual can go and stand and say, it is me, I'm from this party in this country, I know you have my citizen here, bring them back. It doesn't happen anywhere.
Alex,
now, it has to be you have to follow the international protocols.
Let him take it on. Let him take it on.
And no, look, let me explain this. Many of these Ugandans who turned up at the center for repatriation were trafficked by agents who took their passports. Now, you can't leave a foreign country without a documentation that speaks about you. So what do we see? Those who had their passports, about 280, but the next day's flight and they came back home. Normally, immigration checked in and they're back home. They're back home. Those who didn't have their passports, we had to process what they call a certificate of identity. Now, the embassy in the UAE didn't have enough certificate of identity. So they had to communicate to the government here back home to send them more. But also, secondly, that certificate is charged. You pay for it. Now,
let's be fair to him. Let's be fair to him.
No,
and,
you see, this is important. Okay. These are the facts that are not being talked about in this campaign.
By the ministry.
And we need to talk about it clearly.
Okay, please.
So this certificate of identity they had to communicate again for the government to waiver the costs that these people should have paid to get the certificate of identity. It's just a piece of paper like this. It's a piece of paper. But with your details. What you pay for it. Now, government waived all those costs.
Allow me to pose this question and allow Mr. Waiswa Mufobiro to also expound on this. What were the modalities that you went through, first and foremost, to be able to understand who needs to come back, and did you procure these certificates? The technicalities, tell us, because government says the process is so technical. What did you do?
Well, I hope this time I get the time. One, the back of government, by his own admission, stops at the help of UAE. Okay? And he has admitted they have not brought back any person. They ended at discussions. It was done by UAE, on his own admission.
How did you do repatriation of 42?
Hold it there. We sent His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, after we discovered the problem, to find a solution of looking for resources on how to help these people. So we decided that we would stage a charity concert to allow us have the resources to bring back our people. The amnesty stopped at forgiving them, not returning them. And even if 150 had been returned, or 1,500, it is the duty of government to know that there are people still lagging behind. It's the duty of government to look out for its citizenry.
Can I ask you one question?
We went, let me finish first.
Yeah,
we went there to stage a show. You know what happened? It was by government crookery. Stopped.
Mind your language, by the way.
By government crookery, it
mind
was.
Your language.
By government crookery, it was stopped. I want to mind my language.
Which
by government crookery, your government that you're working in and you're speaking for right now, and we said we must continue with the campaign. The first campaign has returned 42. Those that we have physically bought for tickets. Okay. So the repatriation we are talking about the actual process of having these young people, young girls, suffering both mentally, like you said, and psychologically and physically. 42 were returned. And on the 42, it is a shame. These would be apologizing to us. They arrested 15 for a whole night because they had been returned on the volition of the National Unity Platform. We have gone to the number of about, up to today, we have gone to a number of about 75. Yes, there are those that have been returned on the volition by the air ticketing by the government of the UAE. But as I said, the buck does not stop at the UAE. These kids need psychological therapy. They need actually, even with physique, they have been abused. And that is the duty we are playing. We are not doing this for politics. We are doing this for our sisters who are suffering down there. The point is that they are human beings identified as Ugandans who are languishing and suffering in the UAE. It no longer matters whether they took themselves there by coincidence. It no longer matters whether they have abused the law of that side. What matters is that they are fathered by a country. And it is the duty of that country. Let me tell you, he says about $900 million US. Excuse me.
Was that the figure you put to us?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's a World Bank figure.
World Bank figure,
I
yes,
am
right.
one person who grabs what I listen to very clearly. I can tell you, they have even a charge on these companies that take, through an association, that take these people to the UAE. Why is it difficult today that that insurance charge that you have got from these companies does not again work to help you where you have found an anomaly? It is simply, as you have heard, even the way these kids are going. The first time I went to the UAE was in 2015. I was nearly stopped from catching the flight by the immigration attendant. Because I was an individual, I think I looked small, I was putting on shorts, and he thought that this guy maybe is not fit to go to Dubai.
You can't do the manual labor.
However, what was very surprising, and what made me...
That was the international protocol.
That's 2015. It was not international protocol, it was corruption at play.
Okay.
Let me tell you, on that very counter, a few minutes later, what happened? Very young kids that were being passed on by a labor company were bribing their way to that very plane. I had to make a lot of noise such that I get attention, inclusive of calling Minister of Internal Affairs to understand. I mean, they had looked at my physique to characterize me of who I was, which I thought was very wrong. So this tells you that even as they are going out, they are going out of this country. The bottlenecks that have been set have not been met. When you hear members of government saying that we are doing this for political popularity, you cannot get popularity where it is not realistic. What is real is there are young people languishing in Dubai. If this government, which has an airliner that goes to Dubai every day, nearly, or after every 2 days, can commit itself to their airliner, just like the UAE committed the Fly Dubai and the Arab Gulf, if they could also commit themselves to our Ugandan airliner, like it has done before to take sick people to America and others, not minding whether they will come back alive or dead, then they would put high consideration to these young people who are suffering. And by the way, to tell you, and you go and tell your colleagues, we as the National Unity Platform, we would want very clearly, as early as yesterday, for you to take this burden away from us by bringing our brothers and sisters back home.
All right.
But if you do not, what I can assure the country, this process we started, for us as National Unity Platform, we will leave no soldier behind. We will take it on. We don't mind their laziness.
Allow us,
they have proven so we shall do it because it's our responsibility.
Can you now afford me the privilege of fairness?
You have it now.
I can take it on.
I want to respond to
he has spoken of very, very pertinent issues, including the availability of our airline to be able to do the repatriation exercise. But most importantly, the fact that every Ugandan that finds themselves outside of our borders and is in distress, it ceases to matter. How did you go? And that is the policy we want to hear.
And indeed, that's why our government officials have been working day and night. Actually, if you say the government officials, like he says, are lazy, it's an abuse of these guys who have worked day and night to ensure that our Ugandans return back home. Let me tell you, the officers at the embassy in Abu Dhabi and the consulate in Dubai, over these 3 months, since they negotiated with the UAE government, have been having sleepless nights. Every Monday, they go to the deportation center to register new entrants. This week, Monday, they woke up to go to the deportation center as well to register the new entrants. Every Thursday, they go back to deliver the certificates of identity to enable these people to travel back. So you can't say the team is lazy. Instead, we should be thanking them. And actually, I want to give it up to Ambassador Zake Mechibedi and his team. They have done brilliantly well, right from discussion to ensuring that our Ugandans are very good and that they are back home.
Can I ask a simple question? How many Ugandans are still languishing in those detention centers as of yesterday?
Thank you so much. I told you when we started the campaign.
As of yesterday.
We had 1,500 Ugandans at the center. By Saturday last week, we brought in a batch of 156 that were more so the last at the center. But you know, this is a campaign running over 3 months, ending 30th. We are working. Every day they receive more people. Every day they receive more people. This is an amnesty never seen before. That is why we should give it up to the team at the Embassy of Uganda for negotiating such a good deal.
All right.
No. You said Africa.
Gentlemen,
you said ambassadors of Africa.
Yeah, but our Ugandan ambassador went to represent Uganda.
Are you aware that Nigeria, just in a second, are you aware that Nigeria has expatriated its people? Are you aware has repatriated its people? Fully? Are you aware?
No.
Allow me to ask this question. Allow me to ask the question.
It's wrong to say we have repatriated everybody fully.
I'm saying Nigeria.
If you say those with overstayed visas, we have given you 3 months, and this is the point we are to report to, you're going to have people reporting every day. You can't tell me everybody is going to report at a go. It doesn't happen anywhere. That's why I'm telling you that even today,
Mr. Mugabe and Mr. Waiswa, excuse me, sir.
And they're going to be first stated to come back before.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Mugabe, gentlemen, I have the leeway to end the show unceremoniously. It's not something you want, okay? Allow me to take it on. Ugandans right now are grappling with so many issues. Unemployment is one of them, and it's the reason some of them perhaps are quick to go to the UAE, whether they are using the official or designated means or not. Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is at the helm of rolling out policy that is designed or aimed at making the conditions better here. What are the terms of labor exportation? What I know is that some other countries, including Pakistan and India, state that for our people who are especially doing these particular kinds of jobs, this is what you should do, or these are the terms and conditions. Do we, for example, know that if a girl or a boy who is below a certain age, either 25 or 18, must do a certain kind of work, and there is work that they cannot do? Because an 18-year-old being subjected to work that includes cleaning elderly persons or too many babies could be psychologically distressing.
No. My brother,
is that looked at?
These countries where we are having Ugandans go work are part of the international community. The UN constituency that respects international labor laws. Okay? And in dealing in externalization of labor, we work with key UN agencies like the International Organization on Migration, IOM, has been with us. The International Labor Organization has been with us. To tell you the fact, they have been running campaigns, sponsoring campaigns in the country here on sensitizing Ugandans on how to go through, to go abroad, work through the official means. So it is an international act. Don't localize it. If you leave Uganda to go and work in the UAE, you are governed by the international labor regulations. So that's why we have been entering into bilateral labor agreements with these destination countries. We have with the UAE, we have with Saudi Arabia, we have with Jordan. We are negotiating with other countries where the Ugandans are to ensure that the safety of these Ugandans is enshrined in what they do and practice. And where there are violations, those violators are taken to courts of law.
Okay.
Indeed, there are cases where these violators have been taken to court.
Very lastly, as we enter the final bend of the discussion, allow me to throw it to Mr. Waiswa Fumiro, who has dealt, I believe, personally with some of these people who have been repatriated, their condition psychologically, without necessarily distorting any facts. Put us into good knowledge of their condition. There are reports, for example, that some have been have had their internal organs extracted to the extent that it has led to cancers and other debilitating conditions as far as health is concerned.
Well, I want to tell you that those that we have received, we have not had one with very serious issue, medical issue in terms of body organs. But many of them have been immensely psychologically tortured. Some of them have been exposed to work that is outside the whims of what you can imagine. Some of these other young girls have been sexually abused.
Okay.
And these sexual abuses are extreme, as you may imagine. I don't want to use all those words. So we have put many of these young girls, thanks to the First Lady Babi Kyagulanyi Itungo, to Caring Hearts, such that we have them at least have that mental treatment, that psychological fitting, and of course keep in touch with the parents. But their condition is appalling. There is a serious issue. I want to tell you, I went to the UAE. I found there is a particular place outside Data where Africans are put in on chairs, just like on this platform. They get you here, they sit you there, they sit me there, they sit me there, and then a person comes in and buys you there to go and work. When they take you where they have taken you, they administer you drugs such that you can afford the magnitude of the work you're going to be exposed to.
More like steroids.
So there is a challenge in this country. We would rather
let's wrap this up.
Put a back to what is happening, find lasting solutions, and then we sort of better. Because the challenges of employment in Uganda are still at large, and you will not stop Ugandans. The character of Ugandans is to look for survival. So it is better for government to get out of their lazy beds and ensure that they plan for the young people.
All right, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up. The reason I came to you last was to understand the plight of some of those that have been repatriated, and we're glad we shared some information on what exactly
our MPs.
I'm hoping
our MPs have also.
This is an opportunity to take it on and especially understand the plight of how they are bought, like he says.
I want to tell you that
I'm afraid
government is at the front of this.
No doubt.
I thank our MPs for their contribution.
And listen, the protocol is if there is a returnee coming back to the country, they are profiled.
Yeah.
If they are taken by trafficked, we get to know who trafficked them, and security follows them up. Those who need medical care, there is a medical facility in NTV that is designated for attention.
All right, thank you very much. Gentlemen, Frank Mugabe is the communications officer at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. I'm afraid I'm going to have gentlemen, ladies.